I was 19 when I won $4 million, and my mother called me selfish after I gave her $750,000. That was the text I was staring at in my financial advisor's office while my phone kept lighting up on the corner of his desk. My mother had put it in the family group chat, not in a private message. She wanted everyone to see it. You stole half of our future. Lena. I remember the room going very still around me. The advisor, a soft-spoken man named Paul, had just finished explaining tax withholding structured accounts and why sudden money could make relatives behave like strangers. I had nodded politely through all of it, thinking he was being dramatic. Then my aunt replied with a thumbs up. Then my grandmother wrote, "After everything your parents did for you," then my father wrote, "We are not asking. We are reminding you what family means." I had already offered my parents $750,000. Not a loan, not a trick, a gift. Enough to pay off their mortgage, wipe out their credit cards, repair the house, add to their retirement, and put aside money for my younger brother's school. They did not say thank you for very long. 3 days later, my mother said they deserved half. I grew up as the daughter who did not make trouble. That was the role I had in my family before I had any money. And looking back, I think that was why the money became so dangerous. My parents did not just see a daughter who got lucky. They saw a daughter they had trained to feel guilty before she said no. My name is Lena. When this happened, I was 19, still living at home, still working part-time at a coffee shop near campus, still driving a car that made a scraping sound every time I turned left. We were not poor in the way people sometimes use that word online. We had a house. We had food. My dad had worked at the same warehouse for years, and my mom did billing for a dental office. But everything in our house was described as sacrifice. I learned early not to ask for too much. If I needed shoes, I waited until the old ones were splitting. My brother, Evan, was 4 years younger than me, and nobody ever said it out loud, but his needs were treated as future investments. Mine were treated as expenses. I was the one who understood. That was my mother's favorite sentence about me. Lena understands. It sounded like praise when I was a kid. It meant I did not cry when plans changed. It meant I ate the smaller piece. It meant I helped Evan with homework, covered my own supplies when I could, and said it was fine when my parents forgot things that mattered to me. By 19, I had turned being low maintenance into a personality. The lottery ticket was not even mine at first. That sounds ridiculous, but it is true. A regular at the coffee shop, an older woman named Ruth, won $20 on a scratch ticket I picked for her. She laughed, pushed a $10 bill back across the counter, and told me to buy one after work. Just for fun, she said. I kept the bill in my apron for 3 hours. After my shift, I went next door, bought one ticket, sat in my car, and scratched it with a penny from the cup holder. At first, I thought I had misunderstood the game. Then I thought it was a misprint. Then I drove back to the gas station and asked the clerk to scan it, and he looked at the machine for so long that my stomach dropped. He said, "You need to sign the back of this right now." I did not scream. I did not cry. I sat in my car with the doors locked and both hands on the steering wheel while rain slid down the windshield. The amount was $4 million paid as an annuity or a reduced lump sum. Even after taxes, it was more money than anyone in my family had ever touched. The first person I wanted to call was my mother. I wanted to tell her, "Mom, we can breathe now." But the clerk had scared me when he told me to sign the ticket and talk to someone before announcing anything. I put the ticket in an old algebra book, called the claims office the next morning, and then found Paul through a local attorney. I was embarrassed walking into his office in jeans and coffee shop sneakers. He treated me like an adult anyway. He asked who knew. I said, "Nobody yet." He said, "Good, keep it that way until you have a plan." That should have been the first warning that money does not create a new family. It reveals the one you already have. For 2 weeks, I moved like I was carrying a secret under my ribs. I went to work. I went to class. I ate dinner with my parents, and Evan while my mother complained about the electric bill, and my father said the truck needed new tires. I kept thinking, They have no idea everything is about to get easier. Paul, and I built a plan. I was not going to be handed $4 million in cash. There were taxes, payments, account protections, and decisions that needed adult attention. But I knew immediately what I wanted to do: pay off their mortgage, clear the credit cards, fix the roof, add to their retirement, and set money aside for Evan's education. Paul told me to put a cap on it. Decide what you can give freely, he said. Then do not negotiate from that number. I remember smiling like that was unnecessary. They are my parents, I said. He did not smile back. Then make the gift clean, he said. Clean gifts protect relationships. Open-ended gifts destroy them. The number we landed on was $750,000. It was more than I could fully understand at 19. It was also less than half, which mattered to Paul, and eventually to my survival. He drafted a simple written gift plan: mortgage payoff, specific debts, home repair fund, retirement contribution, education fund for Evan, no cash handed over without receipts or account transfers, no access to my main accounts, no shared passwords, no one else authorized to speak to my advisor. I thought that sounded cold. Then I told my parents. I told them on a Friday night after dinner. My father was rinsing plates. My mother was folding a dish towel. I said, I need to tell you something, and I need you to let me finish. My mother froze, because that is the kind of sentence that usually means pregnancy, arrest, or dropping out. I pulled the folder from my backpack and put it on the table. I won the lottery, I said. My father laughed, once because he thought I was joking. My mother said, Lena, do not start. I showed them the confirmation documents. I showed them the claim paperwork. I showed them the plan. My mother's face changed slowly. First confusion, then fear, then joy, then something else I did not have a name for yet. She grabbed me so hard my shoulder hurt. Oh my God, she kept saying. Oh my God, baby. My father sat down heavily in the chair nearest the sink. For about 20 minutes, it was beautiful. My mother cried and said I was an angel. My father kept saying, You did it. You actually did it. Evan came home and shouted so loudly the neighbor's dog started barking. Then my mother asked, How much do we get? Not, How much are you keeping safe? Not, What do you want to do with your life? How much do we get? I was too happy to hear the danger in it. I opened the plan and walked them through the $750,000. My mother gasped at the mortgage payoff. My father put a hand over his mouth when I said the credit cards could be cleared. Evan asked if that meant he could go to a 4-year school without loans, and I said that was the idea. My mother cried again. She called me generous. She called me a blessing. She called me the daughter every mother prayed for. The next morning, she asked if she could tell my grandmother. I said not yet, because Paul wanted the transfers finished first. Paul, she said, my advisor. That was the first time she said it. You have an advisor before you told your own mother? I tried to explain taxes and paperwork. She listened with her mouth pressed flat, while my father stood behind her, saying nothing. After that, the air in the house changed. Conversations stopped when I walked in. My father asked whether parents could be listed on accounts for safety. My mother sent links to bigger houses and wrote things like, Your father deserves a garage. I answered carefully, Let us finish one thing at a time. She stopped using heart emojis. The first real fight happened 5 days after I told them. I came home from work and found my parents at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad between them. My mother had written numbers in columns, 2 million at the top, 1 million each under mom and dad. Under that, she had written family security. I thought it was a joke for half a second. My father said, Sit down. I did. My mother pushed the pad toward me. We talked, she said. 750,000 is a good start. I stared at the words, good start. A good start. But it does not make sense for you to control all of this at 19. My father leaned forward. Half should be managed by us, not spent. Managed. Half, I said. My mother nodded like, I had repeated something reasonable. 2 million. I felt my face go hot. Mom, the whole prize is not even 4 million in my bank account. There are taxes. There are payment options. There is a plan. Do not hide behind paperwork, she said. That sentence landed harder than it should have. I had spent my whole childhood being told paperwork mattered when it was a bill, a school form, or a late notice. Now that paperwork protected me. It was suddenly a hiding place. I said, I am already giving you $750,000. My father said, giving us? He said it quietly, like the word offended him. My mother tapped the legal pad. Lena, we raised you. We fed you. We kept a roof over your head. We sacrificed so you could have a life. You did not win this alone. I bought a ticket. I said, the room went quiet. My mother looked at me like I had slapped her. So that is what money did to you. I should have left the table then. Instead, I explained taxes, the advisor, and why I needed to protect myself before making promises I did not understand. The more I explained, the more offended they became. My father said, no advisor is going to tell me what is fair in my own family. My mother said, you are letting a stranger poison you against us. Then she said, after everything we did for you, you are going to make us beg? That word followed me for days. Beg. They were not begging. They were demanding $2 million from their teenage daughter while sitting in a house I had already offered to pay off. But by the time the argument ended, I felt like I had done something dirty by saying no. My mother cried in her bedroom that night, loudly, the kind of crying meant to travel through walls. My father slept on the couch, which he only did when he wanted the whole house to know he was disappointed. Evan texted me from his room. What did you do? I did not answer. The next morning, my mother acted normal in a way that made me nervous. She made pancakes. She called me honey. She asked what time I worked. Then, right before I left, she said, I spoke to Grandma. I turned around. You what? She was worried about me. I needed my mother. Did you tell her the amount? My mother looked away. She is family. By noon, 3 relatives had texted me. My Aunt Denise wrote, I hope you are not letting money come between you and your parents. My cousin Mark wrote, must be nice to forget where you came from. My grandmother called twice and left one voicemail that began with, I never thought I would live to see you dishonor your mother. I sat in my car during my break and listened to that voicemail with my apron still on. I had $4 million on paper and felt smaller than I had ever felt. That evening, my mother added me to a group chat called Family Meeting. There were 21 people in it. Before I could type anything, she sent a long message. She wrote that I had been blessed with life-changing money. She wrote that my father and she had spent 19 years sacrificing for me. She wrote that they had asked me to place half of the winnings into family care so they could make responsible choices for everyone. Then she wrote, Lena has decided we only deserve crumbs. Crumbs. $750,000 had become crumbs. My aunt replied first, Lena, I know you are young, but this is ugly. My grandmother wrote, your parents are not strangers. Someone I barely knew, a second cousin I had met twice, wrote, she is probably being coached by that advisor. My mother replied, exactly. That was when I realized she had told them about Paul too. I typed 3 different responses and deleted all of them. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to list every number. I wanted to say, do you understand how much money I already offered? But I could hear Paul's voice from the first meeting. Do not negotiate in a crowd. So I took screenshots. All of it. Then I muted the chat. At home, my mother was waiting in the living room with her arms crossed. You embarrass me, she said. I looked at her. I have not said anything. Exactly. That was the family rule I had never noticed before. If they accused me in public and I stayed quiet, I was cold. If I defended myself, I was disrespectful. The only acceptable option was confession. My father came in from the garage and said, "Your mother is humiliated." By what? By you acting like we are greedy. I laughed. I did not mean to. It came out once sharp and ugly. My mother flinched. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "I think I gave you a plan for $750,000, and now 20 relatives are calling it crumbs." My father said, "Because you made it sound like charity. It is a gift. It is family money." My mother snapped. There it was. Not my money. Not even money I had chosen to share. Family money. Once she said it, everything after made more sense. In her mind, the money had already become a family asset. My no was not a boundary. It was theft. The next week was a study in pressure. My mother stopped speaking to me unless she had an audience. In front of Evan, she said, "Maybe your sister can explain why your college fund depends on her mood." That one got to me. I had already set aside money for Evan's education, but she said it like I was holding his future hostage. When I told him the school money was real, he only said, "Mom said plans can be changed." For the first time, I felt something colder than guilt. I felt used. That night, my mother told the family chat she never imagined her daughter would turn money into a weapon. My cousin Mark wrote, "If I won, my parents would never have to ask." I unmuted the chat just long enough to save more screenshots. Then my mother sent me a private text. "You can still fix this." I wrote, "I am not giving you half." She replied, "We are not asking for half. We are asking you to honor the half that belongs to us." I stared at that sentence for a long time. The half that belongs to us. That was the message I showed Paul the next morning. His face did not change much, but he took a long breath through his nose. "Do they have access to any of your accounts?" "No." "Do they have your social security card, birth certificate, passwords, bank logins, anything like that?" I thought of the metal file box in my mother's closet where she kept every important paper in the house. My birth certificate and social security card are probably at home. He wrote that down. "Get them today if you can. If you cannot, request replacements." My stomach dropped. "You think they would do something?" He paused. "I think people who believe they are owed money sometimes act like collecting it is not wrong." That sentence scared me more than any shouting had. He referred me to an attorney named Rebecca. I hated sitting in another office, explaining that my parents wanted half my lottery winnings. I hated how calm she was, like she had heard versions of this before. Rebecca asked to see the gift plan, the messages, the group chat, and anything my parents had requested. I sent everything. Then she said, "For now, do not transfer any money directly to them." I felt sick, but I promised to pay off the mortgage. You promised help. Help can be structured. You do not have to hand over control. They will say I lied. She looked at me over her glasses. They are already saying that. That was the moment I stopped trying to win them back with bigger kindness. Not because I stopped loving them. That would have been easier. I still loved them. I still remembered my mother staying up with me when I had the flu at 8. I still remembered my dad teaching me to ride a bike in the school parking lot. I still wanted them to be safe. But I finally understood that safety was not what they were asking for. They wanted ownership. Rebecca helped me send a short written note. It said I remained willing to provide the original planned assistance through direct payments to verified accounts. It said I would not transfer lump sums. It said all questions about the funds should go through her office. I read it 10 times before sending it to my parents. My mother responded in 6 seconds. "You got a lawyer against your own mother." My father wrote, "Do not come home tonight if this is who you are." I was in the coffee shop storage room when that message arrived. I sat on an upside-down milk crate between boxes of cups and cried so hard I had to bite my sleeve to keep quiet. Then I called Ruth, the woman whose $10 bill had started all of this. When I told her, she did not ask for anything. She only said, "Oh, honey, are you safe?" I slept at her house that night. My mother called 17 times. My father called 4 times. Evan texted once. Mom says you chose money over us. I wrote back, I chose not to give Mom and Dad $2 million. I still love you. Your school money is still safe. He did not reply. The next morning, my Aunt Denise posted on Facebook without naming me. Everyone knew anyway. Some children forget the hands that fed them the second they get a little money. My mother commented with a broken heart. That post was the start of the public version. People from church messaged me. A former neighbor messaged me. One of my mother's co-workers sent me a paragraph about gratitude. None of them knew the amount I had already offered. None of them knew my parents had asked for $2 million. None of them knew I was sleeping in an old woman's guest room because my father had told me not to come home. I asked Rebecca what I could say. She said, "You can tell the truth, but decide whether you want peace or a record." I wanted peace. My family wanted a record. They got one. The breaking point came at my grandmother's birthday dinner 2 weeks later. I only went because Evan texted me and said, "Please just come. Everyone is mad." That was naive. The dinner was at my Aunt Denise's house. I brought flowers and a bakery cake because that was what I had always done. Conversations went quiet when I walked in. My grandmother accepted the flowers without looking at me. My mother wore the wounded expression she had perfected over the past 2 weeks. For the first hour, nobody said the word lottery. People spoke around me. I kept my hands wrapped around a paper cup and told myself to leave after cake. Then my grandmother stood up. She tapped her fork against her glass, even though it was a plastic cup, and made almost no sound. "Before we eat dessert," she said, "I want to say something about family." My stomach turned. She looked directly at me. Family is not only there when it is easy. Family remembers sacrifice. Family honors parents. Family does not take blessings and turn them into selfishness. My mother began crying softly. Of course she did. My grandmother continued, "Lena, your mother has been broken by this. Your father is ashamed. Your brother is confused. We are all confused. We raised you better." Nobody moved. Every face in that room turned toward me. At 19, I was supposed to fold under that. The old Lena would have. She would have apologized just to stop the pressure. She would have promised to think about it. She would have asked her mother not to cry. But the new Lena had 2 weeks of screenshots in her phone. I set my cup down. My hands were shaking, but my voice was not. Do you know how much I offered them? My grandmother blinked. My mother said, "Lena, do not." I looked at my aunt. "Do you know?" Aunt Denise crossed her arms. "We know you offered something insulting." "How much?" She looked at my mother. My mother wiped her eyes and whispered, "This is not the time." It became the time when Grandma gave a speech about me in front of everyone. My father stepped forward. "Watch your tone." I unlocked my phone. I offered $750,000. The room changed, not loudly. No one gasped like in a movie. But something moved through the group. Eyes shifted. My aunt's mouth opened a little. My cousin Mark looked at my mother. I kept going. Mortgage payoff, credit card debt, roof repairs, retirement money, Evan's education fund, direct payments, clean accounts. No cash handed over for anyone to fight about. My grandmother sat down slowly. My mother said, "You are making it sound better than it was." I tapped my phone. "I have the plan." She went pale. My father said, "This is private." I laughed once, quieter this time. No, private was before Mom made a group chat with 21 people and called $750,000 crumbs. Aunt Denise looked at my mother. "You said she was giving you almost nothing." My mother snapped. "Compared to what she won, it is almost nothing." And there it was again, the truth, stepping out before she could dress it up. I opened the screenshot of her text. and read it aloud. We are not asking for half. We are asking you to honor the half that belongs to us. My cousin Mark stared at the floor. I read the next one. You stole half of our future. Then I read my father's message. Do not come home tonight if this is who you are. The room went completely quiet. My mother said, you had no right to save private messages. I looked at her. You had no right to turn the family into a jury without giving them the numbers. My grandmother's voice was smaller when she spoke. You offered $750,000. Yes. And you asked for $2 million, she said to my mother. My mother stood up straighter. We asked for what was fair. Aunt Denise said, you told me she would barely help with the mortgage because she put conditions on it, my mother said. She wanted to control us. I said, the condition was that bills get paid directly. My father said, because you do not trust us. I turned to him. You told me not to come home because I got a lawyer after Mom sent relatives after me. He did not answer. Evan was standing near the hallway, staring at me like he was hearing the story for the first time. That hurt almost more than my mother. I had wanted to protect him from the ugliness. My parents had used that silence to rewrite me. He said, you really set aside money for school? My mother turned on him. Evan, not now. I said, yes, it was in the first plan. He looked at her. You said she might not. Because she is unstable right now, my mother snapped. That was the last straw for my aunt. Denise was dramatic, nosy, and usually on my mother's side, but she was not stupid. Wait, she said. You made it sound like Lena refused to help anyone. My mother pointed at me. She refused to help the right way. The right way. The whole room heard it. The right way meant giving them control. The right way meant handing over $2 million and trusting people who had spent 2 weeks lying about $750,000. The right way meant being the daughter who understood. I put my phone in my purse. The original offer is off the table for now, I said. My father's head snapped up. Excuse me? Rebecca will contact you about what, if anything. I am still willing to pay directly. I am not discussing money with anyone in this room again. My mother stared at me like she did not recognize me. You would punish us? No, I said. I am done rewarding this. She began to cry harder, but it did not work the way it used to. Maybe because everyone had heard the numbers. Maybe because I had finally heard myself say them out loud. My grandmother whispered, Lena, please do not leave like this. I looked at her and felt sad, but not guilty. You gave a speech before you asked me one question. Then I left, outside. I made it to my car and locked the door before my hands started shaking again. Evan came out 2 minutes later. I did not know, he said through the open window. Mom said you were going to blow it all and leave us with nothing. I am not. Are you still going to help me with school? Yes, I said, through an account Mom and Dad cannot touch. He looked relieved and ashamed at the same time. I told him not to let them use him to talk to me. Then he went back inside, and I drove to Ruth's house. The next month was not peaceful. Consequences rarely are. My mother sent long emails with subject lines like family healing and your father's health. My father sent short messages about respect. My grandmother called twice and cried. Aunt Denise sent one awkward apology that began with, I wish I had known the full story. I did not respond to most of it. Rebecca handled the money. The mortgage did get paid eventually, but not the way my parents wanted. It was paid directly to the lender, with no cash passing through their hands. A limited education account was created for Evan with rules that kept my parents from draining it. The retirement contribution was paused. The home repair money was paused. The credit cards were not cleared. My mother called that cruel. Maybe some people will agree with her. Some people think a child who wins millions should give her parents whatever they ask for. But raising a child is not an invoice you keep hidden until she gets lucky. I moved into a small apartment near campus. The first night I slept there. I woke up 3 times because the silence felt suspicious. No one was crying through the walls. No one was sighing over bills at the counter. No one was telling me I understood. For a while, my mother kept trying to reach me through other people. Then Rebecca sent one letter. It said financial communication needed to stay in writing, and public claims about theft or abandonment should stop unless my parents wanted the full records shared in response. My mother called it a threat. I called it a boundary. After that, the family group chat became quiet. Evan and I talk now, carefully. He knows his school money is real, and he knows I will not send money through our parents. My parents still live in the house with the paid-off mortgage. My mother still tells people money changed me. She is right. Money changed what I could no longer pretend not to see. It showed me that my parents did not only want help, they wanted the power to decide how much of my life belonged to them. When I offered help with a boundary, they called it crumbs. When I brought receipts, they called it betrayal. When I stopped explaining, they called it cruelty. I used to think being a good daughter meant understanding everyone else's needs before my own. Now I think a good daughter can say, "This is what I am willing to give," and survive the answer. My mother wanted half of my winnings. What she lost was the daughter who would have apologized for keeping the rest of her own life. That was one family treating a daughter's luck like a debt she owed them forever. The next story comes from another woman who learned that once money appears, even private plans can become family gossip. My name is Maya, and the first sign something was wrong was not a missing document. It was a text from my ex-husband using a phrase he should never have known. He wrote, "So you are hiding money in a trust now?" I was standing in the grocery store with a bag of apples in one hand and my 5-year-old daughter, asking if we could buy the dinosaur cereal. I read the message twice and felt the air go thin. My ex, Daniel, knew I was careful with money. He knew I had become careful because our marriage had taught me what happened when I trusted someone charming with bills, passwords, and shared accounts. But he did not know about the trust. Almost nobody did. The trust was not dramatic. It was a modest plan for my daughter, Lily, built from life insurance, a small inheritance from my grandmother, and money I had saved after the divorce. I wanted rules around how it could be used: education, medical needs, housing support when she was older, not Daniel's business ideas, not Daniel's emergencies. The only people who knew the details were me, my attorney, my financial planner, and my friend Claire, because I had asked her to be a backup contact. Claire's wife, Tessa, worked at the same planning office. Not as my planner, at least not officially. She handled client scheduling and document intake. I had not thought much about it because Claire was one of my closest friends. That was my mistake. I did not answer Daniel right away. I put the apples back, bought the cereal, drove home, made Lily dinner, and waited until she was asleep. Then I wrote, "What trust?" He replied with the name of it, the full name, not a guess, not a vague accusation, the exact name that appeared on the draft document my planner had sent 2 weeks earlier. My hands went cold. I wrote, "Who told you that?" He replied, "People talk when you act shady." Then came the real message. If you have money set aside for Lily, child support needs to be revisited. I am not paying while you stash cash. I sat on the edge of my bed and read that sentence until it stopped looking like English. Daniel had spent our marriage turning every shared dollar into a negotiation. If I bought Lily shoes, he wanted to know why they were not cheaper. If I paid a medical bill, he said I was trying to make him look irresponsible. If my grandmother sent me birthday money, he called it household income. The divorce gave me distance, but it did not give me privacy if someone else opened the door. The next morning, I called my attorney before I called Claire. That was important. The old version of me would have called my friend first and asked, "Did Tessa say something?" That would have given everyone time to clean up the story. The divorced version of me had learned that when money and custody are involved, feelings can wait behind records. My attorney asked me to forward the texts. Then she asked whether Daniel had ever seen drafts of the trust. No, Did you discuss the name with anyone outside the planning office? Claire. In writing? No, at my kitchen table. Does Claire know the full legal name? I thought back. I had told her I was setting up a trust for Lily. I had not said the long formal name, because at the time, I barely remembered it myself. My attorney said, then ask the planning office for an access history. The office did not want to give it to me at first. My planner sounded offended, like the request itself was an accusation. I said, my ex-husband has the exact name of a draft document from your office. I need to know who accessed it. There was a pause. Then he said he would check. 4 hours later, he called back with a different voice. The document had been opened 3 times after business hours from an internal login assigned to Tessa. Tessa, my friend's wife. Tessa, who had smiled at me at Claire's birthday dinner and asked how Lily was doing. Tessa, who had access because I had trusted the office and, by extension, trusted her. I did not call Claire yet. I called my attorney again. She told me to request the access log in writing. She told me not to accuse Tessa by text. She told me to preserve every message from Daniel. Then she helped me move the trust work to a different firm. Only after that did I call Claire. She answered cheerfully. Hey, what is up? I said, did you or Tessa tell Daniel about Lily's trust? Silence. Not confusion. Silence. That was the answer before she gave me one. Maya, she said carefully, Tessa may have mentioned that you were doing some planning. I closed my eyes. Daniel knows the exact trust name. Claire sighed like I was making things hard. He ran into Tessa at the gym. He was asking about you. That is all. That is not all. I do not know what you want me to say. I wanted her to be horrified. I wanted her to understand that my child's financial safety had just been turned into gossip between my friend's wife and my ex-husband. Instead, she said, I think you are overreacting because Daniel triggers you. There it was, the word people use when they want your history to make your evidence smaller. I said, the office log shows Tessa opened the file after hours. Claire went quiet again. Then she said, you pulled logs on my wife? That was when the friendship ended, not officially, not with a speech. It ended in that sentence, because Claire was not upset that Tessa had opened a confidential file. She was upset that I could prove it. Daniel filed to revisit child support 2 weeks later. He attached printouts of messages where he claimed I was hiding assets. My attorney answered with the trust documents, the purpose of the funds, the access log, and the complaint filed with the planning office. His request went nowhere. Tessa lost her job. I do not know what else happened at the office, and I did not ask. Claire sent me one long email saying I had destroyed their household over a misunderstanding. She wrote that Tessa had only been trying to protect me from Daniel by knowing what he knew. I read that part 3 times. Tessa protected me by giving him the thing he used against me. I did not respond. I changed firms. I changed passwords. I changed backup contacts. I removed Claire from every emergency document where her name appeared. The new trust was completed with a different name, different office, and a rule that no information could be released to anyone without written verification from me or my attorney. Daniel still tries sometimes. He sends messages about fairness. He asks why Lily gets protected money while he struggles. He says co-parenting means transparency. I save the messages. Then I send them to my attorney. Claire told a mutual friend that motherhood made me paranoid. Maybe it did. Maybe divorce did. Maybe watching a confidential file become ammunition did. But I would rather be called paranoid than hand my daughter back to people who think access is the same thing as love. My ex wanted the trust details. My friend wanted me to forgive the leak. I wanted my daughter's future to stay locked. So I locked the door, changed every name on the list, and stopped answering anyone who thought privacy was rude.